When Calls the Heart, Season 8, Episode 11. The show opens up with Lucas driving up to Elizabeth's home and sees Nathan's horse tied up by the porch. He drives off. Inside, Nathan is handing Elizabeth a bouquet of flowers. He said, "They're for you." She said, "Is this?" He said, "Florence's bridal bouquet. She wanted you to have them." She said, "I just can't avoid these, can I?" Nathan shrugged his shoulders. Elizabeth said, "You look cold." He said, "I'm just about to head on my rounds, and I can't find my gloves." She said, "I may have an old pair of Jacks if you would like me to look for them." He said, "No, no, no, it's fine. I'll be fine after I warm up." "Well, while we're waiting on the kettle, why don't you take off your serge?" He said, "Huh? So I can warm it up for you." "Oh, yeah, that would be nice." While she was holding the serge near the kettle, she said, "I used to do this for Jack on chilly mornings." She said, "Florence's bouquet is beautiful." He said, "Yeah, it is. I guess she thought that you were going to be the next one to get married." Elizabeth said, "This should be ready now." He said, "Yeah, I should probably head back on my rounds." She said, "Yeah," as she helped him put on the coat and button it up. Then she thought about what she was doing and backed up. Looking down at her, Nathan said, "Yeah, this feels better." They went outside. Nathan stepped off the porch and looked up at Elizabeth and said, "Well, thanks for warming me up. Thank you for the flowers." At that moment, Rosemary stepped out of her home. They all looked at each other nervously. Well, Elizabeth and Rosemary looked at each other awkwardly. Nathan was just looking. Nobody said a word. Then Rosemary walked away. Florence returned to Hope Valley alone without Ned. Clara let her know that her shoulder was available if she needed it. Florence is denying that there is any trouble. She said, "As much as I appreciate the gesture, as I told you, Ned stayed behind to attend to some business." Clara said, "Uh-huh," and left the counter with a 20-pound bag of flour, saying, "Don't say I didn't try." Lucas was at the school with Elizabeth. He said, "Are you sure you don't want to take a break and have lunch with me?" She was putting up decorations on the chalkboard. She was stretching to the top, and Lucas walked over and said, "Allow me." They made eye contact, and she walked away and said, "I'm not very good company right now." "I'm sorry." He said, "You're working. I understand." Elizabeth walked over to the window and saw Nathan riding by. Lucas said, "I thought I'd come by on a whim." He walked up behind her and saw her staring at Nathan. She turned around and told him why she left the wedding early. That she told Nathan she didn't blame him for Jack's death. Lucas said, "Why didn't you come back inside after? I had no intention of bringing this up, but you didn't even say goodbye." She said, "I don't know why Nathan and I." Minnie came in and told her that the school inspector was back. Lucas said, "I'll let you two talk," and walked away. Minnie wanted to know if there was anything to worry about because Angela would be heartbroken if she couldn't go to the school. Elizabeth assured her there is nothing to worry about. Lee asked Joseph to come work with him at Coulter Lumber. Joseph said, "I would have to give Lucas some time to replace me, but I would very much like to come work with you." Rosemary asked Lee if he wanted to ride out to the old Cantfield house. They have moved into town. Lee said he couldn't because he needed to get some work done. She rode her horse because Jesse borrowed their car. She was being nosy, wanting to know what's going on about all those businesses and real estate transactions. Carson wants to propose to Faith. He went into the kitchen to ask for Minnie's help. While he was in the kitchen, Faith told Clara, "I think this is it. I think he's going to propose." Clara said, "Oh my goodness, really?" Elizabeth gave Bill the packet that the inspector gave her from the county school system. Bill said he would look over it and get back to her. Elizabeth said, "Thank you, Bill," and walked out the door. As she was walking across the street, Nathan rode up. He said, "I wanted to tell you earlier about how much it means to me that you said at the wedding that you didn't blame me for Jack's death." She said, "Well, I'm glad, and I hope we are able to put this behind us." Nathan said, "You have a good day. Oh, look, I found my gloves." She smiled and chuckled. As she turned around, she saw Lucas staring at her. He was on the balcony watching them, as usual, with his cup of tea. The guy that stole Jesse and Clara's money walked into Fiona's shop. He said, "Hello again." She said, "How can I help you?" He said, "I was looking to get a haircut." She said, "Won't you sit down?" He said, "I didn't get back to Union City." She said, "Huh?" "On the last time I was here, you told me the shop was closed, and you directed me to the closest barber." Fiona said, "Yes, I recall now." He said, "No, you recognized me the moment I walked in the door. You told me that you also owned this shop." She said, "And I was protecting my interest." He said, "You have no interest. You rent." She took the cape off him and said, "I don't like being intimidated, so I'll ask you to leave." He said, "Well, if you want to stick around and work after I buy this place from Mr. Weaver, you're more than welcome." He gave her his business card and left, smiling. Rosemary rode up to the old Canfield house. She was stepping down from her horse when a man fired a shot in the air. Her horse was spooked and it threw her to the ground. Another man helped her off the ground. "Ma'am," Rosemary thanked him. He said he apologized on behalf of his officer. "He can be a little zealous," Rosemary said. "I would like to be on my way if that's all right with you." He said, "Of course. Again, no harm intended. But this is private property." She said, "Yes, I know the previous owners." "Who did you say owns it now?" He said, "Have a nice day, ma'am." Fiona was waiting for Nathan when he got back to the office. She told him about the man who stole Jesse and Clara's money is back in town, and he's in the saloon. When they got to the saloon, the man had an audience made up of townspeople. Nathan told him to come with him. The man turned back to the people and said, "Folks, to be continued." Nathan and Mr. Welton, the guy who stole Jesse and Clara's money, were at the jail when he got a call. Nathan had to leave, so he put the man in the cell. Rosemary was at the clinic with Lee by her side. Carson and Nathan walked in. Carson said, "What happened?" Rosemary said, "I fell off my horse." Lee said, "That did not happen." And he began to tell them about some goon firing a warning shot and spooked her horse. Rosemary said, "I'm just fine, a little shaken." Nathan said, "Where did this happen?" Rosemary said, "At the Canfield's old cabin. There were 3 men. They were Pinkertons." Bill told Elizabeth that there was a clause buried in the document that she gave him that if she taught Angela Canfield without credentials to teach the blind, that they could shut the school down or they could remove her as teacher. Nathan went to the old Canfield house to talk to the Pinkerton men. He asked if they knew anything about a woman being thrown from her horse. The head man said there was an incident earlier. A young woman rode up and my deputy fired a warning shot. Unfortunately, the horse was skittish and she was thrown. "Would you know how she's doing?" Nathan said, Was the warning shot necessary? I have an eager beaver over there. Asking her to leave might have been a little more appropriate. I don't tell you how to do your job. This is private property, and we've been hired to look after it. I don't suppose you would tell me by who. Are you and I headed for trouble? You can count on it. And Nathan rode away. Lee and Rosemary were talking about the man who stole Jesse and Clara's money and how he was in jail. When Lee realized that Jesse wasn't back yet, Rosemary asked Lee if he knew where the ointment was that Faith gave her for her back. He said, "Yes, I put it on your desk." She realized what he said and said, "Lee, did you say my desk?" He said yes as he was smiling. Earlier, Rosemary was in his office and she was in Lee's way and moving things. Rosemary said she wanted to start a newspaper. Lee said, "That's fantastic because you're smart, you're intuitive, you're hardworking." Rosemary added, "And a little bit nosy." Lee said, "And a lot bit nosy." They laughed and hugged. Then Clara rushed into the office, wet from rain, and said, "Lee, where's Jesse?" The next morning, Nathan and the men went searching for Jesse. They found the car stuck in the mud, but no Jesse. The swindler was out of jail and talking to Bill. He thanked Bill for helping him to get out of jail. Bill said, "Let's be clear. The only reason you're out of jail is because you made good with the Flynn's by returning their money." While Clara was at the jail the night before, asking Nathan about going to search for Jesse, she saw the swindler in jail. She was already upset because Jesse was missing. She looked over and saw him. He wanted to talk to her about the deal between he and Jesse. He said Jesse was investing in the boom of the town when his company's factory is built. Now that they got their money back, they'll be disappointed when it comes through. It's nighttime and Jesse's still missing. Lee told Clara they will resume the search in the morning and that Jesse knows the mountains like the back of his hand. Lucas knocked on Elizabeth's door. When she opened the door, he said, "I'm sorry for stopping by so late." She said, "Come in." He said, "Elizabeth, you've always maintained that love is worth fighting for. That includes when it needs defending." She said, "Lucas, come in." He said, "Allow me to finish, please. I appreciate your telling me that you took Nathan aside to assure him he wasn't blamed for Jack's death. But I have to admit, I witnessed the discussion. I also noticed his horse here the other day, and while I'm not resentful of what I've seen and of what you told me, I believe that you and Nathan still..." She said, "Lucas." He said, "Love is not just an emotion. It's also an act of will. It can't be demanded. It can't be forced. I want you to find your true love. And in order to do that, I need to set you free." And he walked away. And the show went off. Sidebar: setting her free worked for Nathan. Will it work for Lucas? We're still at the same point, not knowing who she will choose. I guess we'll find out next week. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe.